The neighbors froze at their windows as 15 roaring motorcycles pulled into the driveway of a frail farmhouse, their engines shaking the snow off branches. The riders were Hell's Angels, their leather jackets marked with fire and steel. And inside that house, a 76-year-old widow stood alone. What happened that night and the morning after would leave the whole town stunned. The knock on the door. Snow fell heavy across the valley, burying the roads, silencing the sky, trapping everything it touched. It was the kind of storm that demanded respect, the kind that humbled even the strongest men. But no one expected the storm to deliver them. At the edge of town, on a quiet stretch of farmland, Eleanor Reeves stood by her window when she saw the glow of headlights. The rumble grew louder until it shook the floorboards of her little house. One after another, motorcycles crept into her driveway, 15 of them, engines sputtering against the cold, riders bundled in leather and steel. To the neighbors peeking through curtains, it was a nightmare. "The old widow's in trouble now," someone whispered. "Those bikers will eat her alive." Then came the knock, hard, heavy, certain. When Eleanor opened the door, the leader stood before her, frost clinging to his beard, his breath curling in the icy air. "Ma'am," he said, voice low but respectful. "Our bikes can't take this storm. We need shelter, just for the night." It was the moment every neighbor feared, and the moment Eleanor revealed who she truly was. "Come in," she said gently. "The storm doesn't care who you are. Out there, you'll freeze. In here, you'll be human." The woman behind the door. To strangers, Eleanor was just a frail widow, but her silence carried stories heavier than any storm. Her husband, Thomas, had been a soldier, strong, steady, the kind of man who believed in honor above all else. She still remembered the scent of his uniform when he left for war, the weight of his embrace before he boarded the bus. He never came home. His grave lay on a hillside shaded by oaks, and Eleanor had carried that absence for decades. Her son, Daniel, grew up with his father's spirit, but lived in a world that did not treat him fairly. As a young black man, he faced suspicion at every corner. Store clerks followed him. Teachers underestimated him. Officers questioned him without cause. Eleanor watched the quiet fire in him fade under the weight of injustice. One day, without a word, Daniel left and never returned. So when Eleanor looked at the bikers before her fire, she didn't see criminals. She saw sons. Sons carrying burdens the world had judged without ever knowing. The long night. The bikers filled her small home. Their boots dripped melted snow onto the wooden floor. Their jackets smelled of leather, smoke, and gasoline. They towered over the furniture, yet Eleanor moved among them with calm authority, pouring hot tea, ladling soup into chipped bowls, laying blankets across broad shoulders. They muttered thanks, some awkward, some surprised. One young rider stared at her in disbelief. "Why would you help us?" he asked quietly. Eleanor's pale eyes met his. "Because once, long ago, someone helped me. Kindness is a debt we never stop paying." The storm howled outside, but inside her farmhouse, something unexpected grew. The men repaired her broken gate. They shoveled her walkway without being asked. They stacked firewood, careful not to leave her without heat. Around her table, hardened men bowed their heads before eating. And when one found her husband's old piano, clumsy fingers tapped out a melody. Another hummed along. For the first time in years, her home sang. The judgment of the town. But the town saw none of this. By morning, whispers raced like wildfire. "The widow's lost her mind," the grocer said. "She's feeding criminals." At the diner, heads shook. "She'll regret it. Mark my words." Even the sheriff drove past her house, his suspicion plain, his car idling too long at the end of her driveway. Eleanor didn't answer their judgment. She didn't argue. She kept her silence, her quiet defiance against a world quick to condemn. And the men noticed. Around her they softened. They carried themselves straighter. They lowered their voices. In her silence they saw dignity, and it changed them more than any sermon could. The morning after. When the storm broke, the bikers prepared to leave. They offered money. Eleanor refused. They promised protection. She only smiled and said, "I need nothing but prayers for warmth in your journeys." The neighbors sighed in relief as the bikes roared away, believing danger had passed. But they were wrong. The next morning, the sound returned, louder, heavier, multiplied. Windows rattled. Dogs barked. The valley filled with thunder. One by one, motorcycles lined up outside Eleanor's house. Not 15 this time, nearly 100. Chrome gleamed in the sun. Leather jackets stretched across broad shoulders. Boots crunched into the snow. Eleanor stepped onto her porch, shawl wrapped tight, her eyes wide. She watched as the riders stood in formation, their presence overwhelming yet solemn. At the front, the leader dismounted, removed his cap, and bowed. "This house," he declared, his voice carrying across the crowd, "is holy ground. This woman sheltered us when no one else would. From this day forward, no harm will touch her, no disrespect will cross her door. She is family." Behind him, 100 bikers lowered their heads in silent respect. The power shift. The same neighbors who had judged her now spilled onto their lawns, stunned into silence. The sheriff, once skeptical, pulled his hat low, realizing that authority meant little compared to loyalty. Eleanor said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence, as always, was her greatest power. She stood tall, her silver hair glowing in the morning light, her farmhouse transformed into a symbol of unexpected brotherhood. Iconic quotes. "The storm doesn't care who you are. Out there, you'll freeze. In here, you'll be human." Kindness is a debt we never stop paying. Real strength isn't shown by fear, but by compassion. The lasting legacy. From that day, Eleanor Reeves was never alone. Riders stopped by often, leaving food, stacking wood, mowing her lawn. They called her Mama Reeves, their respect deeper than blood. Her neighbors, once so quick to condemn, now lowered their heads when they saw her. The whispers turned to silence, and silence into awe. Eleanor never boasted. She never explained. She simply lived as she always had, with quiet strength, unshakable honor, and a heart open to those the world cast aside. And for years after, whenever the sound of engines filled the valley, no one trembled. They knew it was not trouble coming, it was respect. This story reminds us, true power is not in strength or fear, it is in compassion. One act of kindness can silence judgment, transform strangers into family, and echo louder than any storm. Where are you watching from? Do you believe one act of kindness can change an entire community? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more cinematic stories that honor unseen heroes and silent dignity.